Hello, in this video we're going to go through another little update. So it's been a while since my previous video, it's been about a month, so there's actually quite a few updates to go through, but what I'll do is I'll record separate videos for them to keep things a bit neater, right? So in this first one, perhaps there'll be more of a technical one to have a look at what it was that we were refactoring over the last sort of month and a half, and perhaps why it took so long, and some of the benefits from it as well. So what we were working on is refactoring our character classes. So previously what I had was a sequence of actor blueprints. So everything was in blueprints. So I had this hierarchy of classes. So I had this actor-based blueprint, and then I had these stylized character, rotating character, player base v2. So some of them could have been squashed, to be fair. So for example, these three could have perhaps been one. But I just prefer to keep them independent, just so I don't sort of merge some of that content. And again, this was just a personal preference. There's no significant advantage to doing that. And then after having my player base v2, I then extended it further, for example, for my humanoid character, and then I had my actual instances of classes. So for example, when it came to the actor-based blueprint, this blueprint was shared between my characters and my monsters. Then here we have some of these classes which really acted as a bit of an interface, really. And then my player base v2, for instance, this contained all of the components which were required by the players. So for example, players could control parties, they had talents, they had appearance resolvers, notification services, etc. Right? So all of these components were required by my players. So that's what this one really defined. And then when it came to these humanoid characters or these instances, this is where the appearance information was defined. So these ones contained all of the skeletal meshes that the players could have, and it also had the specific resolvers. So again, this was defined by the stylized character. So that's why this function was quite useful for me here. Okay, so this is what we had before, and what we wanted to do was bring more of this onto C++. So essentially, we started refactoring and then exposing just two blueprints out. So one of them is going to be the character player, and the other one is for the character creature. Okay, so perhaps the first question is, why did we move this over to C++? And really this is because it will make it more dynamic, more scalable, and perhaps more performance, right? So technically all of these features or functionality could be supported through blueprints. So for example, even now, I'd simply need to extend some of these classes to create the relevant orc subtypes. But there'll be a lot more sort of overhead in doing that. Whereas now we're able to make this config driven, right? So this is perhaps what I'll demonstrate here. So the first template that we'll look at is this player race template, and this helps us determine all of the valid combinations of races and genders that we support. So for example, at the moment we support human, male and female, Death Knight, male and female. Then if we want to introduce a new race, for example, orc or dwarf, we'll just create new entries here, right? And in terms of gender, for example, if we introduce some sort of a robot race, we don't need to have both male and female there, right? So that's why this was kept a bit dynamic here. But anyway, so if we take our key from here, so the way to do that is simply to append the combinations. So here, for example, we'll append human and male in order to get this human male key. And this leads us on to the next template, which is the player appearance template. So this player appearance template is fundamental for us to set up our playable characters. And as you can see, we've got all of the combinations that we support. So human male, human female, Death Knight male, Death Knight female. So whenever we're going to be introducing any new races, we just have to add their relevant configuration to support it. So for example, if we look at the first one, perhaps I'll just look at the mesh components first. This literally defines all of the different skeletal mesh components that that player or that character will require, as well as any of their default skeletal meshes. So for example, if I look at chest, by default, this is the chest to use, as well as this is the material to apply. So all of this is the default ones. Some of these components are going to be empty. So for example, we know that we need this chest add component, but by default, it doesn't need to be set, right? So we simply populate these components, and we're also able to dynamically add the tags to them so that we are able to look them up dynamically. And this is for items and things like that. So for example, in your inventory, you're going to have some additional chest pieces. If you equip them, you then need to find the relevant skeletal mesh components in order to set the new skeletal meshes, right? So that's why we need to define them here. So this is all of the potential options for skeletal meshes that the character will require. Okay, so aside from our mesh components, some of the other information that we require is the animation class, right? So we also modified the way animations worked on our player characters, and we wanted to make those config driven as well. So for example, if I open up this animation blueprint, and I'll go into the class defaults, this is how we effectively drive the animations through configuration, right? So we've got this variable for animation list, and here this is essentially a map of animations that the character can use. So for example, for channeling animations, we want to specify what to play. For dead animations, here they are, right? So all of this, this animation list is for your locomotion essentially, and then you're going to have these one hit list as well. So this is whenever you, for example, do an attack, cast a spell, hit reactions and things like that. So hit reactions quite new, so we're just playing around with it for now. So all of those animations can also be defined here as a map, and then your other blueprints, for example, your item handler or something like that, will just ask your character to play an animation with this key, right? And this allows us to make this quite generic because it doesn't actually know which animation that character needs to play other than the name of the key. So it doesn't know this specific one. This is defined by the character blueprint, or rather the character animation blueprint, but it just knows the reference. So that's how we're able to sort of decouple our items, for example, or action skills from the actual character animations. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and start the game up, and you'll be able to see that it kind of works the same as before, but obviously we've made some additional modifications to, for example, our locomotion. So we've looked to essentially fix it. So now we're able to strafe, move backwards, move forwards. So the game works as before essentially. Obviously there's a new map and stuff, so we're sorting some things with that. I'll be covering the new map in a separate video. But then, for example, if I'm able to cast a healing spell, you'll be able to see that it initiates the casting. When the casting completes, it activates the spell. There's also some hit reaction which gets played, so there's a couple of bugs to fix there still. But lots of progress has been made on this character refactor, and now essentially it's looking pretty good. So there's still a few things to iron out, but it's in a pretty good space. So the reason why it took so long is obviously the character was quite fundamental blueprint in the project. So essentially replacing it required quite a lot of rewiring. So that's why it took a bit of time, right? Because all of the items, all of the skills, or like basically everything that required a character reference, all of those had to be updated. And then we also changed some of the fundamental ways that things worked under the hood as well. So that's why it took a bit of time. But now that this part is completed, we're able to sort of progress much faster. So that's it for this video. I'm going to make a couple of more regarding some of the other updates. And yeah, see you next time. Thanks. Bye.